Alice Johnson had spent over 40 years working in the hotel industry, crafting her career from humble beginnings. Born and raised in Harlem, New York, Alice had seen her fair share of adversity, from subtle prejudices in her workplace to financial hurdles. Despite the odds, she had one unwavering dream: to own a hotel that welcomed everyone with respect and dignity. Now in her early 70s, with her gray hair elegantly styled and a wardrobe that reflected decades of taste, Alice finally stood before the building that bore her name. It wasn't just any hotel. It was a luxury establishment in the heart of Manhattan. Its gleaming glass facade and warm, ambient lighting radiated elegance and modernity, a true testament to her life's hard work. As Alice walked into the lobby on this special day, she marveled at the ambience she'd helped design. Soft jazz music playing in the background, chandeliers casting a warm glow, and luxurious leather seating for guests to relax. This was not merely a hotel. It was a sanctuary, a place Alice had dreamed would offer solace and comfort to every visitor, regardless of background. Every detail spoke to her philosophy of inclusion and genuine hospitality. But as she walked among the polished marble floors, the doubts crept in. She knew that no amount of luxury could ensure respect from the staff she'd recently hired. Having worked in the industry her entire life, Alice understood that training couldn't always erase deep-seated biases. This uncertainty tugged at her as she observed employees from a distance, keenly aware of the subtle ways they could communicate disregard to guests. Her assistant, Ben, a loyal companion throughout the journey of establishing the hotel, noticed her apprehension. "Alice, you've created something remarkable here. Don't let fear overshadow it," he said with a reassuring smile. But Alice, with a knowing look, replied, "Ben, I didn't build this place for prestige. I built it so people could feel valued, whoever they are. And if we're not delivering that, I need to know." Alice Johnson had spent over 40 years working in the hotel industry, crafting her career from humble beginnings. Born and raised in Harlem, New York, Alice had seen her fair share of adversity, from subtle prejudices in her workplace to financial hurdles. Despite the odds, she had one unwavering dream: to own a hotel that welcomed everyone with respect and dignity. Now in her early 70s, with her gray hair elegantly styled and a wardrobe that reflected decades of taste, Alice finally stood before the building that bore her name. It wasn't just any hotel. It was a luxury establishment in the heart of Manhattan. Its gleaming glass facade and warm, ambient lighting radiated elegance and modernity, a true testament to her life's hard work. As Alice walked into the lobby on this special day, she marveled at the ambience she'd helped design. Soft jazz music playing in the background, chandeliers casting a warm glow, and luxurious leather seating for guests to relax. This was not merely a hotel. It was a sanctuary, a place Alice had dreamed would offer solace and comfort to every visitor, regardless of background. Every detail spoke to her philosophy of inclusion and genuine hospitality. But as she walked among the polished marble floors, the doubts crept in. She knew that no amount of luxury could ensure respect from the staff she'd recently hired. Having worked in the industry her entire life, Alice understood that training couldn't always erase deep-seated biases. This uncertainty tugged at her as she observed employees from a distance, keenly aware of the subtle ways they could communicate disregard to guests. Her assistant, Ben, a loyal companion throughout the journey of establishing the hotel, noticed her apprehension. "Alice, you've created something remarkable here. Don't let fear overshadow it," he said with a reassuring smile. But Alice, with a knowing look, replied, "Ben, I didn't build this place for prestige. I built it so people could feel valued, whoever they are. And if we're not delivering that, I need to know." With a steady resolve, Alice made her way through the lobby, her gaze observing every detail, every interaction, with a discerning eye. She took in the murmurs of nearby staff, who exchanged glances, seemingly puzzled by her presence. The subdued looks of judgment in their eyes didn't go unnoticed by Alice, each one reinforcing her fear that the culture she dreamed of establishing wasn't quite rooted yet. As she waited for the elevator, she overheard a whispered conversation between two younger staff members standing nearby. "I didn't know this was a shelter now," one of them murmured with a smirk, glancing in Alice's direction. The other stifled a laugh, shaking her head in bemusement. Alice's heart clenched, but she kept her face neutral, pretending not to hear. She had seen such attitudes countless times before, yet experiencing them in the hotel she had built from the ground up felt different, more personal. In the elevator, Alice found herself joined by a young couple in designer clothing, who were visibly uncomfortable sharing the space with her. They avoided eye contact, huddling together and whispering among themselves, stealing occasional glances at her attire. She felt the sting of exclusion, even as she kept her posture steady, knowing well what they thought of her appearance. Yet, she knew this experience was vital if she truly wanted to understand her guest's journey. When the elevator doors opened on her floor, she made her way down the hallway to her room. The hall was elegantly decorated, the kind of ambience she had dreamed of, warm, inviting, yet exuding luxury. But she couldn't ignore the chill in her heart from the reception she'd experienced so far. As she stepped into her room, she took a deep breath, allowing herself a moment to absorb everything. The room was pristine, adorned with fine linens and subtle, sophisticated decor. It was exactly as she had imagined, tasteful and comforting. Yet, all of this beauty felt hollow after the indifference and subtle disdain she had encountered. Later, Alice ventured downstairs to explore more of the hotel. As she lingered in the lounge area, she caught sight of Lisa again, chatting animatedly with a couple who had just checked in. Watching her warm, personable demeanor contrasted starkly with the curt, cold treatment she'd received. Feeling emboldened, Alice approached Lisa, determined to see if the attitude remained the same. "Excuse me, miss, I was wondering if you might have any recommendations for nearby restaurants?" she asked with genuine curiosity. Lisa's friendly expression faded the moment she recognized her. "There's a diner a couple of blocks away that might suit you," she replied, her tone lacking any warmth or enthusiasm. "If you're looking for something, more budget-friendly." Alice took in a steady breath, managing a slight smile. "Thank you," she replied, feeling the weight of Lisa's dismissive tone. Alice turned away, her mind racing. The reality was undeniable. In her own hotel, she'd been reduced to assumptions based on her age and appearance. Her beloved establishment was failing at its core mission. She knew now that things would need to change, and soon. As Alice settled into the hotel's lounge area, the memory of Lisa's dismissive tone replayed in her mind. She was no stranger to prejudice, but to experience it in the space she had carefully crafted to be a haven of respect felt like a deep wound. Determined to understand the full scope of the service, she decided to approach the reception desk once again, hoping that another staff member might treat her differently. When she reached the front desk, a tall, well-dressed man with neatly combed hair and a polished demeanor greeted her. This was Michael, the hotel manager, a man she'd hired based on his impeccable resume and his experience in high-end hospitality. His presence exuded confidence, but as Alice approached, she noticed a slight narrowing of his eyes, a subtle shift in his expression that belied his initial charm. "Good afternoon," Alice began politely with a soft smile. Michael looked her over, his expression bordering on impatience. "How can I assist you, ma'am?" he asked, the corners of his mouth barely turning upward in what could only be called a strained smile. "Well, I was just wondering if it might be possible to get an extra set of towels in my room. And, if it's not too much trouble, perhaps a quick orientation to the amenities." Her request was modest, made in a gentle tone. Michael's face shifted, a thin veil of politeness masking an underlying tone of condescension. "Typically, we try to keep these requests minimal, especially for shorter stays. Extra towels might incur an additional charge. Are you sure you're in the right place, ma'am? There are some other accommodations nearby that might be more suited to your needs." Alice held his gaze, her voice calm but tinged with disappointment. "Are you suggesting I might be more comfortable elsewhere?" Michael's expression faltered for a brief second, but he recovered quickly, offering a tight smile. "I just mean that we cater to a certain clientele here. We want to ensure all our guests have the best possible experience, and sometimes that means finding them a place that aligns better with their expectations." Alice felt the sting of his words, each one laced with subtle judgment. She nodded slowly, absorbing the implication that she was out of place in the very establishment she'd worked her entire life to build. With a steady voice, she replied, "I understand perfectly. Thank you for your guidance." Turning away, she walked back toward the elevator, her mind racing with a mixture of hurt and determination. She had been dismissed not just by a young receptionist, but by her own manager, the very person she had trusted to uphold the values of respect and inclusion that were the foundation of her vision. In the quiet of her room, she took a moment to reflect. She knew she had the power to reprimand Michael and Lisa, to correct the staff right then and there. But a part of her wanted to address this in a way that would leave an unforgettable impact, not just on them, but on every single employee in the hotel. Her fingers tapped lightly on the table as she made her decision. Alice would let this go for now, but tomorrow she would return, not as an anonymous guest, but as the founder of this hotel. And when she did, her message would be clear. Her dream of a luxury hotel wasn't just about opulence. It was about dignity, respect, and compassion, values she would not compromise. The following day, Alice arrived at the hotel again, this time under very different circumstances. She was no longer the unassuming guest from the day before. Dressed in a finely tailored suit that reflected her decades of experience and success, her gray hair styled neatly, she exuded the quiet authority of a woman who had earned every accolade in her career. The event she was attending was an exclusive gathering of investors and industry leaders, all eager to celebrate the grand opening of this impressive new hotel. As she walked through the lobby, the same staff from yesterday, Lisa, Michael, and others, bustled about, ensuring everything was perfect for the event. A look of confusion crossed Lisa's face as she noticed Alice in this new attire, her posture and demeanor so different from the woman she had dismissed the previous day. But the moment of recognition and realization didn't fully dawn until Alice made her way to the podium at the front of the grand hall, where guests and employees alike were gathered. "Ladies and gentlemen," the event host announced, "it's my honor to introduce the woman behind this incredible establishment, the visionary who built this hotel from the ground up. Ms. Alice Johnson." Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Michael's eyes widened, and Lisa's face went pale as she realized the magnitude of her mistake. They had misjudged not just an ordinary guest, but their own employer and founder. Alice took the stage, glancing briefly at the stunned faces in the crowd before beginning her speech. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice strong yet steady. "It's an incredible moment to see a lifelong dream come to fruition. But last night, I had the chance to see this hotel from a different perspective, as a guest, not as the owner." She paused, letting her words sink in. The room was silent, every eye trained on her, and a mix of guilt and apprehension clouded the faces of her staff. "During my stay, I was met with an attitude that no guest should ever have to endure. I was looked at and dismissed based on assumptions about my appearance and age. I was told, subtly but clearly, that I didn't belong here." Her gaze shifted directly to Michael, who looked down, his face a mask of regret. She continued, "This hotel was built with a mission: to create a welcoming space for everyone, regardless of who they are or where they come from. Luxury should never be defined by exclusivity or judgment. True luxury lies in dignity, in kindness, in treating every individual with respect." The room was heavy with tension, and Lisa looked like she wanted to disappear. Alice's words had struck a nerve, revealing the true nature of the hotel culture under the surface. She knew her staff was realizing just how profoundly they had failed in upholding the values she held dear. Inclusivity and empathy are not just marketing phrases here. They are values I live by, and that I expect every employee to uphold. My hope is that this experience, difficult as it may be to hear, serves as a reminder of why we're here. Not to judge, not to assume, but to serve. As she stepped down from the podium, Alice saw the humbled expressions on her employees' faces, particularly Michael and Lisa. She had given them the opportunity to reflect, to learn from their actions, and to understand that true hospitality extended far beyond appearances. With her message delivered, Alice left the room, knowing that her words had planted the seeds for a transformation that would reshape the heart and soul of her beloved hotel. In the days following Alice's speech, the atmosphere within the hotel was noticeably different. Staff members moved through their routines with a renewed sense of purpose, their interactions laced with an awareness that hadn't been there before. For Lisa and Michael, however, the impact of Alice's words was particularly profound. Both were painfully aware that their conduct had left a lasting impression on Alice, the very person whose hard work and vision had made the hotel possible. Each replayed the encounter in their minds, a mix of regret and shame tugging at them. Lisa, especially, struggled with her own embarrassment. She had taken the job with enthusiasm, thrilled to be working in a luxury hotel in the heart of New York City. But Alice's words had pierced her, forcing her to confront the biases she hadn't even realized she held. Determined to make amends, she sought advice from the hotel's new guest relations director, who'd been brought in to help instill Alice's values more deeply within the team. "It's not enough to apologize," the director told Lisa one afternoon. "It's about understanding that every guest who walks through those doors deserves respect. That's what sets us apart." That's what Alice wanted from day one. Michael, meanwhile, knew that as the manager, he had a responsibility to set the tone for the entire team. He'd been trained in high-end hospitality, but Alice's speech had made him question his own understanding of what luxury really meant. It wasn't about exclusivity or catering only to the elite. It was about offering a genuine welcome to every person who stepped into the hotel. Determined to take ownership of his mistakes, he scheduled a meeting with Alice to discuss how he could personally contribute to fostering a more inclusive culture within the hotel. Sitting across from her in the cozy warmth of her office, Michael confessed, "Ms. Johnson, I failed you. I failed this hotel. And, most importantly, I failed to uphold the values you've poured into this place." He looked down, visibly uncomfortable but resolute. "I want to do better. I want to lead our team in a way that reflects the respect and dignity you've always spoken about." Alice's face softened. She could see the genuine regret in his eyes. "Michael, we all make mistakes," she replied. "But what matters is what we do afterward. It's never too late to realign with our purpose. Luxury isn't about marble floors or crystal chandeliers. It's about how we treat people, everyone. That's what I want you to focus on moving forward." Together, they crafted a plan to retrain the entire staff, introducing workshops on empathy, understanding, and the principles of hospitality that Alice had envisioned from the beginning. Michael took the initiative, actively participating in the sessions and modeling the values he'd overlooked before. Lisa attended every workshop as well, often staying afterward to ask questions and seek guidance on her interactions with guests. She wanted to rebuild herself into the type of professional Alice would be proud of. And slowly, Alice saw her staff begin to transform. They grew kinder, more attentive, each taking to heart the lesson Alice had imparted. Through their efforts, the hotel began to live up to Alice's dream. A place where luxury wasn't defined by status or wealth, but by the way every guest, no matter their appearance or background, was valued. Alice's decision to reorient her staff's mindset through retraining brought noticeable changes that extended beyond the hotel walls. The employees began approaching their roles with a renewed commitment to empathy and respect. Guests noticed the difference. Reviews highlighted the warmth and attentiveness that distinguished the hotel as a unique sanctuary in the city. Words like welcoming, genuine, and inclusive began to appear regularly in guest feedback, a clear indication that Alice's vision was finally taking root. As the weeks passed, Alice noticed subtle changes in Lisa and Michael's behavior. Lisa, who once approached her duties with a sense of impatience, now treated each guest interaction as a chance to connect, no matter how brief. She greeted every guest with a smile and genuine interest, no longer viewing her job as just a series of tasks to complete. In one particularly moving instance, she assisted an elderly man who had difficulty walking, personally escorting him to his room and taking the time to ensure he was comfortable. When he thanked her, calling her an angel, Lisa felt a warmth she hadn't experienced before, realizing that this was the essence of the job she'd initially overlooked. For Michael, the transformation was even more profound. As manager, he felt a new responsibility to lead by example. He began holding regular team meetings, where he encouraged open discussions about the experiences and challenges faced by each staff member. In one such meeting, he addressed the team, his voice steady but reflective. "I want to be honest with all of you," he began, glancing around at the faces of his team. "I made a mistake in how I approached my role here, in how I treated people, both guests and staff. But I'm committed to learning, and I hope you'll join me on this path." The admission brought a sense of camaraderie and solidarity among the team, who respected Michael's vulnerability and dedication to improvement. Slowly, the hierarchical barriers started to fade, and the staff became a cohesive unit, driven by the shared mission of creating a truly welcoming space. Alice, witnessing the shift in her team, felt a profound sense of fulfillment. This was what she had always envisioned: a hotel where respect and kindness were embedded in every corner, every interaction. She wanted her staff to understand that true hospitality was not about perfection or exclusivity, but about a genuine desire to serve others with compassion. One evening, as she observed the staff bustling with an energy that spoke to their newfound purpose, she couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. In the months that followed, the hotel's reputation grew. Word of Alice's approach to hospitality spread, and guests came not only for the luxury accommodations, but for the warmth and respect they felt from the staff. Alice knew her journey had come full circle. She had built not just a successful hotel, but a living embodiment of her lifelong dream. One evening, Lisa approached Alice in the lobby, her voice filled with gratitude. "Ms. Johnson," she said softly, "I just wanted to thank you for giving me the chance to learn and grow. I never realized how much this job could mean until you showed us what it was really about." Alice smiled, resting a gentle hand on Lisa's shoulder. "The most important thing is that you cared enough to change, Lisa. That's what matters." As Alice looked around her beloved hotel, she saw that each of her staff members had come to embrace this new mindset. Her dream had evolved from a personal ambition into a legacy of compassion that would impact everyone who walked through those doors. With a heart full of gratitude, she knew that her work had finally brought to life a place that truly honored the dignity of all who entered, fulfilling the promise of her vision in ways she had only dared to dream. As time passed, Alice's hotel became a cornerstone in the community, symbolizing more than just luxury. It embodied respect, kindness, and inclusivity. The staff, once bound by routines, now approached each day with the understanding that their work was more than a job. It was a calling to uphold Alice's values, and this commitment rippled outward, creating connections that went beyond simple guest service. News of Alice's inspiring philosophy attracted media attention, and one day, a journalist from a prominent magazine reached out, eager to profile her story. Alice, modest as ever, was hesitant but ultimately agreed, seeing it as an opportunity to share the values she held so dear. In the interview, Alice reflected on her journey, starting from her early days in the industry. "I never intended to just run a hotel," she explained, her eyes soft with memory. "I wanted to create a space where people felt valued. I've seen how quickly people judge others based on appearances, and I've been on the receiving end of that. But here, in my hotel, I wanted things to be different." The article became widely circulated, and soon, guests from across the world sought out the hotel, drawn by Alice's philosophy. People arrived, curious to experience this unique brand of hospitality that treated every guest like family. Alice was often in the lobby, greeting guests and sharing brief, meaningful exchanges that reminded everyone of the heart and soul behind the hotel. She became somewhat of a legend, not for her wealth or achievements, but for the kindness and authenticity she radiated. Meanwhile, the staff continued to grow in their roles. Michael, inspired by Alice's mentorship, started working on a proposal to create a leadership program for young hospitality professionals, hoping to impart the lessons he had learned under her guidance. Lisa also flourished, becoming a well-respected front desk supervisor known for her warmth and patience. She often recounted Alice's story to new employees, using it as a reminder of the values that define their work. One afternoon, a group of college students on a field trip visited the hotel as part of a hospitality course. Alice took the time to speak with them, sharing her story and answering their questions. One student asked, "What would you say is the secret to success in this industry?" Alice paused, considering her answer. "It's simple," she replied with a gentle smile. "See people for who they are. Show kindness without expecting anything in return. Success is in the little moments of connection. When a guest feels seen, when a staff member feels valued. That's what creates something lasting." The students were captivated, inspired by her words. In that moment, Alice realized that her dream had become a legacy, a message that would live on not just within the walls of her hotel, but in the hearts of all who had experienced it. As the years passed, the hotel thrived, and Alice eventually stepped back, confident in the team she had nurtured. Her legacy of compassion continued to flourish, a beacon of hope and inclusivity in an industry often driven by appearances and prestige. Even as she spent more time away from the daily operations, Alice's presence remained. Her values were woven into every greeting, every interaction, every moment within the hotel. The hotel had become, as Alice had always envisioned, a home for everyone. A place where luxury was defined not by grandeur, but by the depth of respect and kindness that touched every soul who entered. And in that legacy, Alice knew she had created something truly timeless. Alice's influence extended well beyond her hotel. Over time, her philosophy became a guiding light for other establishments and even inspired industry-wide changes. Professionals across the hospitality sector sought her advice, eager to understand how they, too, could cultivate the kind of environment she had created. Invitations for speaking, engagements flowed in, and although Alice was a private person, she felt compelled to share her message, hoping it would inspire a shift toward empathy in an often impersonal industry. One evening, during an awards ceremony where Alice was being honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award for her contributions to hospitality, she took the stage and looked out over the crowd. She spotted Michael and Lisa in the audience, both of whom had become like family to her. Many of her staff had joined to celebrate this moment, their faces full of pride. As she looked at them, her heart swelled with gratitude. Her speech was simple, but her words carried weight. "I built this hotel to be a place where people could feel at home, a place that respected them for who they were, not for who they appeared to be," she began, her voice steady and warm. "But I couldn't have done it alone. This is the work of every person who chose to be part of this journey. Every team member who decided to serve not just with skill, but with heart. Together, we have shown that true luxury is about making everyone feel valued." Applause filled the room, and as Alice descended from the stage, guests and colleagues approached her, sharing how her vision had touched their lives. Some thanked her for the hospitality they had experienced at her hotel. Others expressed how her philosophy had transformed the way they managed their own businesses. After the event, Michael approached Alice, his eyes bright with gratitude. "Thank you, Ms. Johnson," he said quietly, "for everything. You've changed how I see this work, how I see people. I'll always carry your lessons with me." Alice smiled, touched by his words. "I'm proud of you, Michael. Remember, it's not just about running a hotel. It's about creating a place where people feel seen and respected. You've helped me realize that dream." As the years passed, Alice gradually handed over the reins of her hotel to a new generation of leaders. She spent her remaining years traveling, visiting other hotels and communities inspired by her vision. Everywhere she went, she was welcomed as a mentor and a friend. Her presence a reminder that kindness and respect were the true pillars of hospitality. In her later years, Alice continued to receive letters and emails from guests who had stayed at her hotel, sharing stories of how their time there had impacted them deeply. Some wrote of the staff's warmth during difficult moments. Others mentioned the unique feeling of belonging they had found within those walls. Alice kept each letter, finding comfort and joy in the knowledge that her dream was still alive, carried forward by every person who entered her hotel. When Alice eventually passed, her legacy was commemorated in a heartfelt ceremony. Guests, employees, and friends from around the world gathered to celebrate her life and her lasting impact on the industry. Michael and Lisa, who had both risen to prominent roles within the hotel, led the event, sharing stories of Alice's compassion and her unwavering dedication to her values. The hotel Alice built continued to thrive, a beacon of her philosophy, bearing her name with pride. A plaque was placed in the lobby in her honor, inscribed with her guiding principle: "True luxury is measured not by wealth or status, but by the kindness we extend to others." In the years that followed, her story became part of the hotel's culture, shared with new staff as a reminder of the values that define their work. And so, Alice's vision lived on, shaping lives and inspiring hearts, a timeless legacy rooted in the simple yet profound power of kindness. The story of Alice Johnson and her unique approach to hospitality became legendary, touching people in ways she could have never anticipated. Her hotel, now widely recognized not only for its luxurious design but for its profound warmth, attracted visitors from around the world. Guests arrived not just to enjoy the hotel's comforts, but to experience the legacy of a woman whose life's mission had transformed hospitality itself. Years after Alice's passing, her philosophy continued to be a beacon of inspiration, guiding both seasoned professionals and young hopefuls entering the industry. The hotel remained a living tribute to her values, with every staff member learning about Alice's journey and how her vision had shaped the very essence of the place. New employees were shown Alice's story on their first day, and each one left the orientation with a newfound understanding of what it truly meant to work there. Michael and Lisa, now the hotel's senior leaders, championed Alice's legacy. They carried forward her values in every decision they made, remembering the day they learned their most valuable lesson in humility and compassion. As the years went by, they continued to develop and expand Alice's training programs, ensuring that each employee understood that kindness was not just a policy but the heart of the hotel's identity. In her honor, they launched the Alice Johnson Foundation for Inclusive Hospitality, which offered scholarships and training opportunities for young people from diverse backgrounds who aspired to work in the hospitality industry. This foundation became a driving force, encouraging people of all walks of life to bring their unique perspectives and empathy into the field. Alice's philosophy touched thousands of lives, giving aspiring professionals the resources and mentorship they needed to thrive in a competitive industry. Stories of Alice's influence reached beyond the hotel. Her life was the subject of articles, documentaries, and even a book titled The Heart of Hospitality. The legacy of Alice Johnson, which delved into her life, her challenges, and the values that had set her apart. The book became a must-read for those entering the field, providing lessons not just in management but in the human side of business. For guests, Alice's spirit remained present in every corner of the hotel. From the personal touches in each room to the warm, genuine smiles of the staff, visitors felt the unmistakable sense that they were stepping into a place where they mattered. Many guests left with stories of their own, memories of small kindnesses that had left a lasting impression, and some returned year after year, not just for the hotel, but to reconnect with the legacy of its remarkable founder. As the decades passed, Alice's influence on hospitality grew even more profound, shaping industry standards and inspiring other hotels to embrace her values of inclusion, respect, and genuine care. She became a symbol of what hospitality could be when built on compassion, a lasting reminder that every individual who walks through the door deserves to feel seen, valued, and respected. In this way, Alice's dream lived on, not only in the walls of her beloved hotel, but in the hearts of countless people who carried forward her legacy. Her story had become a part of the hotel's DNA, and through her enduring impact, she continued to make the world a little warmer, one kind act at a time. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and watch this next story. It's truly heartwarming.